Greetings, citizens, and thanks for tuning in to Nindie Nation episode 98. I'm Jeff, and if you're new here, welcome to your one-stop weekly shop for everything independently developed for the Nintendo Switch. This week, we're covering all of the indie games releasing on the eShop from January 10th through the 16th. And after we're done there, we'll stroll on down to the deals section to help you find the best games on the cheap to keep your Joy-Cons synced. New episodes post to YouTube on Tuesdays, and the podcast feed is hosted by our friends at the Nintendo Village. We're currently publishing our Best Nindies of 2020 series, so keep an eye out for that, and Thursdays are reserved for the Nindies Nite live stream. If you want to chat about Nindies or keep up with our schedule, subscribe to Nindie Nation on YouTube for updates or follow us on Twitter at Nindie Nation. As you know, we kick off every episode of Nindie Nation by looking at the games that released without warning since our last episode. The list of games have been smaller than usual lately, so I'm starting to wonder if the publishers are waking up and realizing it would be a good idea to market their games. Either way, it provides for some lighthearted fun as we get the episode rolling, and occasionally we find a hidden gem worth checking out. However, that ain't the case this week, citizens. But nonetheless, here are the 3 neglected Nindies that released since episode 97. Which one do we start with? Okay, I don't know exactly when this happened, but at some point, I assume between the time Farmville exploded on Facebook and the iPhone App Store hit its stride, developers realized they could take a real-time strategy game, like StarCraft or Command & Conquer, strip it of everything that makes it interesting, and create an addictive, time-sucking money pit. I think they're usually referred to as time management games, but I refer to them as time-wasting games. You basically tap on icons and wait for timers to run out, and usually timers will move faster if you pay money, like real money. Anyways, Ocean Media released one of those for $10 and called it Kingdom Tales 2. And next is... yeah, we gotta save the best for last. So Jet Dogs is now on their 7th entry of the Travel Mosaics series, and look, if you like Picross, the number and picture puzzle-based game, these aren't too bad. But with Jupiter's Picross S series, I really see no reason to consider anything else. Travel Mosaics 7, Fantastic Berlin, is one of those games, and the whole series was built around copying characters from Disney's Zootopia. They don't look quite as shameless now as they used to be, and there seems to be some new characters, but if you want some Picross-type gameplay with slightly unsettling woodland creatures thrown in the mix, well, it'll set you back $8.99. Okay, here's one where I might get in trouble. I might put this out there and someone in the comments might say,
"This is a beloved franchise, you monster, how dare you?"
So if that's the case, I will admit my ignorance right now and say I have no idea what the subject matter is for Spice and Wolf VR2, but it seems to be an anime. Here's the pitch.
At the end of their journey, Merchant Lawrence settled down and opened a bathhouse. The couple was blessed with a daughter,
remember that part, it's important,
and an idyllic life. One day, as Lawrence was going about his side business to further fill the family's coffers, a slight incident occurs and Hollow saunters in with quite the feast.
So in this game, you basically watch a story unfold between a male merchant and 2 perky young fox girls. They look directly at the camera and do all kinds of cute, suggestive things, and remember, one of them is supposedly your daughter. What's more is the description says this game is 30 minutes long, and it's $25. If this is your thing, great, but if this is truly a 30-minute game for $25, know that the team at Gem Drops is taking advantage of you. I know, usually there's something a bit more fun in the neglected Nindies, but hey, if I'm off the mark with any of these, let me know, and I'll issue a correction. I'll even pin your comment to the top of the video. Otherwise, we've got 26 new releases this week and the introduction of a brand new publisher, but, well, we'll save their games for a special segment. Anyways, here are the 17 games hitting the eShop from January 10th through the 16th. Yumimidori Nostalgia! It's a visual novel by Opera House for 1999 that releases on January 11th. Let's see what this one's all about.
When you go through the main gate with the butterfly you encountered on Gojukan Street, you shall meet your soulmate.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yoshino, a 17-year-old girl,
Uh-oh. Oh no.
follows a butterfly through the main gate. Beyond the gate, she finds herself in Taisho-era red light district of Yoshiwara.
No.
There she encounters Harufumi, a young writer, and Kocho, a male geisha.
Don't do this.
Yoshino tries to find her way back to modern times while searching through the Yoshiwara district where the nights are wild and rowdy.
They did it. Anime visual romance novel with an underage girl. Next up on the 11th is pretty unique though. Developer Games Operators with publisher Console Labs releases Radio Commander for $14.99. I'll admit the game's visuals do look pretty janky for the price, but I like the premise. You play as an American military commander, and it kinda plays like an RTS, but instead of playing as the omniscient being over the battlefield, you're listening to intel, researching the area, looking at the map, and planning out the missions. It's almost like a military puzzle game or something, and we haven't really seen anything like that before. I don't know if it's worth the full asking price, but I think there is an audience out there for Radio Commander for sure. Speaking of an audience for a game, I'm no wrestling fan, but I grew up playing the N64 in high school, and I absolutely know that those wrestling games like No Mercy and Revenge are beloved by many. M. Dickey also knows this, and on the 11th are releasing Wrestling Empire for $19.99. The description straight up calls out those games as its primary inspiration, and yeah, it looks like an N64 game released in 2021. Probably wait for reviews to make sure it executes on the vision, but if it does, and you love those classic retro wrestlers, Wrestling Empire seems built just for you. I wouldn't usually give so much attention to a Mahjong game, but on January 12th, we see Mahjong Adventure release by Fantastico Studio for $7.99, and I like what I see. Mostly I like Fantastico's name attached to it because with Black Paradox, Checo, Firework, and other solid games under their belt, they're a studio I've come to trust for that middle-of-the-road with occasional stars publishing. The visuals are nice, and the price is okay. Yeah, I ain't mad at ya, Mahjong Adventure. I ain't mad at ya. Everrook is a Steam publisher new to the Switch, and on the 12th, they released their first port on the eShop called Epitaph for $12.99. This is a competitive, strategic yet real-time battler that seems to be kind of a card-based game in disguise. I like the art style here, and the premise sounds like a lot of fun. You pick 3 characters and compete for control of the underworld, but every time you kill an opponent, they come back stronger. I guess maybe you defeat all 3 at the same time to win, or maybe just a certain number of times, I'm not sure about that. But the combat is mostly based around selecting abilities that are constantly cooling down, and there's a lot of fun to be had in that kind of approach. Epitaph has a multiplayer mode which is unfortunately only local, but otherwise it carries plenty of single-player content across 150 challenges, and ushers in a publisher that hopefully continues to bring us unique titles like this in the future. Ultimate Games releases more than a couple games this week, the first of which is alongside developer ShotX Studio and their Nindie trifecta Tower Defense Dead Ground, which releases for $9.99. As a zombie apocalypse tower defense, Dead Ground blends a couple of the most common tropes in indie games alongside an uninspired mobile game art style. That doesn't mean it isn't fun though, and it just might be, but I think there's plenty of other options you could try first, especially for the price. Even if it does have procedurally generated levels, roguelike mechanics, and RPG elements. Probably winning the award for the most unique game of the week, developer Doomster Entertainment releases SUM Slay Uncool Monsters on the 12th for $5.99. It's a first-person dungeon crawler where all of the combat takes place inside of a math puzzle. You're given the answer, hence the name, and a grid of numbers, and then you have to use your various attacks, like addition, subtraction, etc., to arrive at said number and deal damage. Outside of the premise, the game is extremely simple, from its graphics to the interface itself that hardly operates outside of a mobile game screen's orientation. But hey, it looks like a fun little game that could be great for elementary kids willing to take a little math practice with their monster slaying. Ultimate Games is back with a team called Projects from Basement with probably the worst video game I've ever seen. Yeah. It's called Head the Pig, it's $3.99, and involves you moving a low-quality JPEG of a pig through a series of tunnels and avoiding low-quality JPEGs of whatever they could find on the internet that reached a resolution no larger than 640 by 480. This game is an embarrassment to everyone involved and should be avoided by everyone. How's that for a back-of-the-box quote? Next up is a title that I've spent a little time with before, and that's Ployed for $2.99 by Nape Games, which kicks off this week's Big Thursday drop. It's a side-scrolling platformer inspired by games like Mega Man, and is a prequel to the team's previous title, Void. The games are very simple, and my primary complaint is that the levels are so big and frequently a bit empty that it can get pretty boring in the early stages. Otherwise, it's developed by a small team out of Barcelona with a passion for developing a large overall universe, and I applaud their efforts, even if they may have a ways to go. I think I'm feeling good about this next one. Developed by JKM Corp., a solo developer, Shadow Gangs is a straight-up callback to the era of ninja action arcade games, stuff like Ninja Warriors or even Shinobi. Moving across the stage at a bit slower pace, ensuring you time your jumps and attacks correctly, and then facing off against some pretty cool bosses, I really like what I'm seeing here. Hopefully I can get a code to check this one out. I think it'd be a great one for the Nindies Nite stream on Thursday. Unfortunately, it launches for $23.99, which seems so high that I almost assume it's an error, but if you like the old-style games it's mimicking, add it to your wishlist and we'll revisit it when it's on sale. The next game is by Query8, who specialize in the underage anime girl romance visual novel, and that's exactly what they deliver for $7.99 with Fantasy Tavern Sextet Volume 2 Adventurer's Days. It's the second in a trilogy, so I'm assuming if you own the first, you're probably well aware that this one is on the way. But the moment I saw our next game, I knew it'd be a candidate for our pick of the week. And this week, that recognition goes to In Bermuda by developer Yak & Co. If you're wondering why you haven't heard of this game and exactly what it is, I was in your shoes too. This one kinda seemed to come out of nowhere, but it really seems like something that should have been in an Indie World presentation. With bright, low-poly visuals similar to Donut County, you play as a pilot whose plane has crashed in Bermuda and will solve a huge variety of puzzles to unlock the secrets of the island and make your way back home. This is the kind of puzzle game that has you doing so many different things you'll be using every corner of your brain, and is probably only geared towards those who live for this kind of stuff. It remains to be seen how long the game is, which is my only concern since it launches for $20, but otherwise it looks like a mostly lighthearted, brain-teasing puzzle adventure with an all-around great vibe. And then developer Ludos Labs approached Ultimate Games and was like,
"Hey, we made Connect 4. Do you want to publish it?"
And Ultimate Games was like,
I don't know, is it any good?
to which Ludos responded,
"Hell no, we barely tried. But hey, we can charge $6 for it and I'm sure someone will buy it."
and Ultimate Games was all like,
I don't know, that seems pretty shady. Aren't there already a bunch of better ways to play Connect 4 on the Switch? Like inside Nintendo's own Clubhouse games?
and Ludos was like,
"I hear you, but our game is meant for people who just jump on the eShop and toss a few bucks at anything without doing any research. There's no refund policy, so by the time we have their money, it'll be too late."
and then they both laughed like crazy supervillains. In the end, we received 4 in a row. Now, I've been doing this long enough that it's pretty rare for a game to trip me up so much that I have trouble explaining the basic premise, and it's even more rare when a game that is seemingly impossible to describe also looks like so much fun. That's why I applaud the efforts of Echo Games, who worked with publisher Coconut Island Games to release Rhythm Fighter on the 14th for $14.39. Rhythm Fighter looks like a mix between a traditional 2D fighter and a turn-based RPG, but you battle by playing rhythm games. Because of the need to also dodge enemy attacks, the combat system gives off vibes similar to Underhero, which I know a lot of you are currently playing. It's different enough that I'd really like to play it for myself before recommending it, especially at its near $15 price. But if this unique mix of rhythm fighting on a 2D horizontal plane wasn't enough, Rhythm Fighter also includes procedurally generated levels, roguelike mechanics, and RPG elements. My Hidden Things may sound like a silly punchline to an off-color joke, but it's actually another interesting combination of genres. It takes the story elements of a visual novel and blends them with the point-and-click puzzle solving of a hidden object game. As the ethereal black and white story unfolds, you'll be presented with challenges that require you to find the two objects that go together in order to progress the story. It's an interesting little experiment that comes to us from Bigway, and it lands on the eShop for $6.29. Huh. The last game releasing on January 14th is a tough one to nail down. I'm going to give you two different descriptions of Life of Fly, which releases from Epixar Games for $11.24. 1. Experience 12 short stories evolving around the life and thoughts of a fly in an interesting yet relaxing narrative game like no other, with beautiful environments to explore. Or 2. You move a sparkly light around a 2D plane as a camera flies through a static 3D environment, and your primary goal is to make your little light touch another light. So, do with that as you will. Before we jump into a special segment in this week's episode, we've got one more game releasing this week, and that's RIVE, a first-person shooter by Mission Control Studios for $7.49. This seems to be one of those more arcadey shooters like a Serious Sam, where you're just mowing down huge swarms of enemies. Even more so, it's designed to look like an early PC shooter, but with some more modern touches. What bugs me about this one, no pun intended, is that almost every enemy, every enemy in the materials the publisher provides, show only one variety: nasty worm grub things with huge gross mouths. Frankly, I don't know if I could handle seeing so many of those. It's pretty nasty. It does look like it could be some good pointless fun though, and there's always room for that. Okay, let's do this. Ladies and gentlemen, we have a new publisher to welcome to Nindie Nation. They're called Pixarts, and from brushing up on their website a bit, they look like a scam geared to sell rip-off game development and web design software. There's also an entire tab on their website dedicated to their theory of infinite universes. I'm not kidding. The various copyrights on their site range from 2018 to just last year, so they're pretty new too. Pixarts releases 9 games next week, most of which drop on Friday the 15th, and every single one of them is a ripoff of something else with aesthetics that could hardly pass for pack-in shareware you would receive with a box of cereal in 1995. Most of these games are $6 to $10. You shouldn't even remotely consider any of them, and this new developer stands for everything that is wrong with open publishing on platforms like the Switch. However, we don't skip out on our responsibilities here at Nindie Nation, so let's knock these suckers out. Here we go! Galactic Trooper Armada is a piece of air combat game with fewer pixels than a 20-year-old VTech watch. Grand Prix Racing is the same driving game we've seen from every other terrible publisher already. Arachnoid Breakout manages to steal the IP of 2 games while making both of them significantly worse by saying,
Graphics? How about blocks?
Table Soccer Foosball is an assault on everything decent about foosball, soccer, or really tables. They insulted tables. Top Gun Air Combat's entire description is modern conflict air warfare without any punctuation or capitalization, and that's probably the most robust part of this entire game. Space Aliens Invaders looks like someone knocked over a beta Space Invaders cabinet and now it's all sorts of up. Gorilla Big Adventure looks so terrible, I actually thought about shutting down this channel and show altogether. Someone needs to contact Jonathan Blow because the Pillar Puzzle Escape might actually just be The Witness but running at a resolution built for the Game Boy Advance. And curling. Curling is badass. This game, however, is just ass. Welcome to the Nintendo Switch, Pixarts. I look forward to using this platform to help ensure as many people as possible see you as the money-grubbing rip-off scam that you are. For most people, In Bermuda is probably the pick of the week. Unless you're a wrestling fan, then it's definitely worth seeing how Wrestling Empire pans out, because that could be a good one. Epitaph also looks cool, and I really wish Shadow Gangs wasn't so expensive. What do you think? If you're planning on checking out any of these, let me know in the YouTube comments or on Twitter at Nindie Nation. A bunch of eShop deals expired just last week, and we got a slew of excellent new deals, including some of the Nindie Nation must-haves. So let's get right into it, citizens. With over 480 games currently discounted on the Nintendo eShop, here are our picks for the best Nindie deals through at least January 16th. Something I've considered doing for a while, but I can't think of the best way to approach, is some sort of video covering like the best games to keep on your wish list in case they go on a deep sale. Essentially, the games that are good enough that even if they aren't in your genre of choice, they're worth checking out when they're just a couple bucks. I mention this because one of my personal top 5 indies on the Switch is back on sale, and that is Cosmic Star Heroine, which is 80% off for just $2.99. This is an excellent entry point if you're new to the classic JRPG style of games, and one of the best out there if you're a longtime fan. It tells an excellent sci-fi spy story and executes with mastery across every aspect of its presentation and gameplay. Another game that falls right into that category is RIVE Ultimate Edition, which is 87% off for $1.99. RIVE was featured in our Nindies We Love video that focused on action-packed games, and is a challenging side-scroller where you control a fast-moving tank in space driven by a wisecracking trucker. I love it, and if you've got the stomach for a pretty tough but fair game, I think you should pick it up. I posted this one on Twitter last week, but the twin-stick shooter I've spent the most time with over the last year, and one prominently featured in the next Best Nindies of 2020 video, is Towaga Among Shadows. For the most part, you stand still and shoot lasers out of your arms while you ward off waves of enemies from all directions, and there's all kinds of upgrades and extra modes to play through once you finish the main campaign. It's a beautiful game, and it's a ton of fun even if you don't usually play twin-stick shooters, because of how, with the exception of just a couple levels, you're usually standing still. With all of that said, Towaga is currently 85% off for only $2.24, and I can't recommend it highly enough. Speaking of the next best of video, another title is on sale that a lot of you really dug when we played it on Nindies at Night a while back. Destropolis is a very basic and mostly traditional twin-stick shooter where you play as a little blue cube shooting down waves of red polygons. You level up during each run and get to pick from randomized upgrades and weapons that help the single-run affair stay fresh and continue to offer replay value. Right now it's only discounted by 20%, but I bought it when it was $4.79, and I feel like I got my money's worth out of it, so if you're one of the many who liked what you saw, you probably will too. So, Revenge of the Bird King is a bad game. I mean, kinda. It's kind of a bad game. And it's kinda genius too. It's like mixing Shovel Knight with Zelda 2? Yeah, that Zelda 2, the weird one. And it's also kinda like Mega Man, but you're a muscular birdman and you plant seeds to grow guns out of the ground. It's weird, it's definitely janky and very obtuse, but if you want to see why I'm recommending it, go check out our super old Let's Play where you can hear me fall in love with it in real time as I play through the first half hour. For all of its faults, it's fun and it's different enough to justify $1.99 if you want to play a retro-styled game that is weird as hell, but combines a bunch of ideas in a way like we rarely see. One of the indie darlings from the last console generation was definitely Saturday Morning RPG. And before I go any further, I'll say if you are a sucker for 1980s pop culture nostalgia, just go buy it right now. It was praised for its humorous approach to the traditional JRPG and is just littered with movie, comic, music, and TV references from the 80s, while also delivering a game that plays somewhere between a Paper Mario and the South Park RPGs. Saturday Morning RPG is about a 5-hour game and is currently 80% off for $1.99. From the team that brought you RIVE and the next game we'll discuss, Swords and Soldiers is a tower defense / real-time strategy game that took the App Store by storm when it released around the same time as the original iPad. It's absolutely one of the best implementations I've seen of the RTS formula on a console, and with the Switch, you can play it in touchscreen mode if you prefer that method instead. It's a great game to really sink your teeth into or just chip away at while you watch Netflix, and it's also $1.99 with a discount of 73%. And the team from Two Tribes strikes again. It's so sad that this developer is no longer around because they made a great console and mobile RTS, Swords and Soldiers, a near-perfect side-scrolling action game, RIVE, and one of the best designed puzzle platformers around with Tokitori 2 Plus. There's no need to play the original first as you're really here for the puzzles themselves, and there's not much of a story anyways. Tokitori 2 Plus got a big-time glow-up and looks really nice on the Switch, and some of those puzzles will definitely work your noggin. As the highest-rated game on today's deals list, it comes highly recommended and is 87% off, also just $1.99. And finally, a couple months back, we played GROOD during Nindies Nite, and a lot of you really liked it. It's a pretty standard, if not low-budget, side-scrolling shmup with a couple tricks up its sleeve when it comes to weapon management and level progression. It's pretty tough though, so it's probably best served to those comfortable with shoot-em-ups, but if that's you, GROOD is currently half off for $2.49. Tell you what, friends, don't sleep on Cosmic Star Heroine or RIVE. I want to hear from those of you that pick them up and what you think, but of course I always want to hear from you regardless of what you're checking out, so let me know in the YouTube comments or on Twitter at Nindie Nation. Now that we've looked back at what we've missed, we've looked ahead to next week, and we've checked out the best deals of the week, it's time for some promos. But I'll be quick, I promise. Please be sure to check out our ongoing series of the best Nindies of 2020, because Episode 2 is now live covering our favorite worlds and stories of the last year, and Episode 3 is coming soon, focused on twin-stick shooters. YouTube's algorithm doesn't like these videos at all, so if you know someone who might appreciate them, send them a link or tell them to check out Nindie Nation. You should do that anyways. We've also got Thursdays reserved for Nindies Nite, and when there's enough deals to discuss, we'll have the Friday afternoon special to serve up a couple of great games on the cheap to help you kick off your weekend. New episodes of Nindie Nation post on Tuesdays, and the audio podcast feed is hosted by our friends at the Nintendo Village. They do great work there, whether it's daily articles, reviews, features, podcasts, or videos on their own YouTube channel. So go check them out and tell them that Nindie Nation sent you. I think we might be considering some schedule changes soon to make things a bit more spread out, maybe with episodes dropping on Sunday or Friday. What do you think? Let me know, and as always, I love to hear your feedback, so always keep it coming. Next week's list is shaping up nicely with a couple of games worth considering, but that's for episode 99, and for today, we're all done here. Thanks for stopping by, liking, subscribing, and sharing Nindie Nation with your friends, and I can't wait to chat about more Nindies with you next week, citizens. Until then, I'm Jeff, this has been Nindie Nation episode 98, and don't you forget that no matter what type of game you're looking for, Nindie Nation will be right here to help you find just the thing to keep your Joy-Cons synced.